Okay, so now we go on to part B of the question. And part B, they ask you to discuss the appropriate policies that a government can adopt to stimulate its economy. Okay, so again, just run through very quickly with you all the what you should be writing in this essay. In the intro, I will expect you to briefly explain to me what do we mean by stimulating the economy, and also to give me an overview and the definitions of all the policies that you intend to cover in this essay. Okay, in the body, I would suggest you give me at least 3 government policies that would stimulate economic growth, and these 3 economic policies that you come up with must be detailed and well explained. Okay, and you must show me how these policies would actually stimulate the economic growth. Okay, also you will need to evaluate the policies that you have chosen. Okay, now the key thing that I want to bring across is that for these 3 government policies that you will be talking about, I suggest that you choose 2 demand side and 1 supply side policy, or 1 demand side and 2 supply side policies. So basically what I'm trying to say is that you should cover both demand side and supply side policies in your answer. Okay. Finally, the concluding stand that you should make is what kind of policies or what policies should the government adopt. Okay, and you should answer this question ultimately in your conclusion. Okay, so let's start by going through in detail. In the intro, stimulate the economy basically means to increase economic growth. Okay, and here you will quickly explain to me that economic growth would cover both actual and potential growth, and actual growth is defined, or should I say is illustrated by an increase in real national income, but potential growth is illustrated by an increase in productive capacity of the economy. Okay. Then again, you introduce and provide definitions for the government policies that you will be talking about, and in this case, I will talk about fiscal policy and monetary policy for demand side policies, and I will talk about long run and short run supply side policies. Now I will go through 4, but I don't expect you to talk about 4 government policies in this essay. Don't have time. But for the benefit of people who actually wrote about these policies, I will just go through them. Okay. So I'll start off with fiscal policy. Basically, fiscal policy is the use of government spending and taxation to manage the aggregate demand. Okay, so this is the definition of fiscal policy. Now, to stimulate the economy, I would need to have expansionary fiscal policy, and that is to either reduce taxation and or increase government spending. Okay. Now notice what I have been doing in this slide here. Basically, I am explaining what is fiscal policy and what is expansionary fiscal policy. So this is step 1. Okay. Next, I move on. I give examples of what I mean by expansionary fiscal policy. Okay. Expansionary fiscal policy is to increase government spending by increasing, for example, defense spending or unemployment benefits. Of course, there are other ways that you can increase government spending, and you can write those in your essay. I cannot possibly list out all the different government spendings. So the key thing here is that it would directly increase AD because government spending, or G, is a component of AD. Okay. Similarly, you can use, similarly for expansionary fiscal policy, you can also reduce taxes. And I think I've mentioned this before, I rather you say reduce taxes on personal income and firms' profits rather than on exports or imports. Okay, so the key thing here is this: if you reduce taxes on personal income, the disposable income for your consumers actually increase. So when they have more disposable income, they are more inclined to spend. So consumption increase. Similarly, if you reduce taxes on firms' profits, which means essentially reducing corporate taxes, the firm's profits will increase and therefore they are more likely to invest. So taken together, the C, consumption increase and investment increase, result in an increase in AD, again because C and I are components of aggregate demand. So I would expect you then to draw me a diagram. So again, what am I doing in this slide? I am trying to explain to the marker how fiscal policy is conducted in reality. Okay, or should I say, how does the mechanism of fiscal policy work? Okay, so in the diagram you will see that there will be a rightward shift in your aggregate demand because of the expansionary fiscal policy. So now I need to explain. So the increase in AD actually results in greater competition on goods and services, which means that producers are now able to sell at a higher price. Or should I say, they are able to sell their goods at a higher price, and therefore they make more profits. Okay, when they make more profits, they are willing to produce more, right, in order to maximize the profits. And therefore what you see is that the national income, or the real national income, will increase. And this is relevant to the question because a real national income increase is actually your actual growth. So this is how you use expansionary fiscal policy to stimulate the economy. Okay, so again, this slide, what I'm doing here is to explain how fiscal policy leads to economic growth. This is the step 3. Okay, then finally I'll move on to evaluate fiscal policy. And fiscal policy evaluation, there are a few standard ones which you should be very familiar by now, like time lag, small multiplier effect. I'm not going to go through them. What I want to talk about is it will lead to higher inflation, which essentially reflects some kind of macroeconomic conflict between the goal of economic growth and the goal of low inflation. Okay, so most of you will correctly identify that when I have expansionary fiscal policy, it will lead to higher inflation in the short run due to increase in the general price level. It is harmful to the people because it reduces standard of living. Okay, now the problem with stopping here is that you have not linked your evaluation to the main point of the question. The main point of the question is to stimulate the economy. So how does this higher inflation link to the issue of stimulating the economy? The issue is that when you have short-run pain due to inflation, how it would affect economic growth is that it may discourage the government from pursuing policies that may lead to long-run economic growth. Okay, so can you see what's happening here? Because people are suffering from inflation, it leads them to stop the government from pursuing certain policies that will lead to economic growth. And in that case, it would cause the government to fail in its attempt to stimulate the economy. Okay, so this is how you should link back to the question. Okay, so and in this slide, what I'm doing is to explain why fiscal policy is not effective. Okay, what we have here is that we have 4 basic steps which I've gone through, and the first one is that I would explain what is fiscal policy and what is expansionary fiscal policy. Then I move on to explain how fiscal policy is conducted. Okay. Then I talked about how fiscal policy leads to economic growth. And then finally, I talked about how fiscal policy is not going to be effective. Now, these 4 steps are the standard steps that you should have in explaining and evaluating government policy tools. Okay, of course, in step 3, if the question is related to inflation, then you will be explaining how the policy leads to inflation, or it leads to higher inflation, so not economic growth. Okay, so this one you have to do some adjustments based on the question. And in step 4, how the policy may not be effective essentially is your evaluation of the policies. For the rest of the slides, you will keep seeing me repeating these 4 steps as I go through the other policies. Okay, let me just stop here for the moment. For the next part of the video lecture, we will go through the other 3 policies, which are monetary policy and also the 2 supply side policies. Okay, what you will see is a continuation of this 4 steps approach in each of the other policies. Okay, thank you very much.